Hello, friends, and welcome. So I just had a weekend away with all of my family. It was fantastic, but my body is feeling a little from all the driving and sleeping in, tent and a sleeping bag, all the various things. And so this is for us travelers, or I guess if you've been working in the garden, anything where you want a little extra tension of that kind of low back hip area. Also, just to put it out there, I have started 2 of these videos, and each time I'm like, blah, 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 blah. So if there's a little blah, blah in this one, I might just have to be, that might have to be where it's at today. Look at my green shirt matches my environment. I'm a chameleon. Lie down on your back. Once you get there, come into constructive rest pose, right? Feet a little wide, knees lean in, arms out a little bit from the side, palms up, and just taking a couple of moments here. It is a pose, A. B, we learn a lot, right, about our body by scanning through, feeling sensation, noticing where we're starting from in this moment in time. And I would even say C, we start to practice the mental work of yoga. Yeah. And that is concentration, focus, awareness, mindfulness. It has a lot of different names. There's some variation between some of those, but really we're just starting to tune in and bring our awareness and our focus to our body. Most of you have been with me for a really long time, so remember it's that holistic body. It's not just your skeleton and your muscles. We're much more complex beings than that. If you notice the breath is short and shallow, choppy, anything like that, maybe you start to slow it down and smooth it out. If you notice rolling tension, maybe you soften the tension. And if you notice pain or tender, anything along those lines, then just make note of it so that you work appropriately with it throughout class, right? For where it is today anyway. And then since this is a shorter video, let's go ahead and we're going to start moving, but try to keep that as we move throughout class. Walk your feet into hip distance. Bring the right knee into the chest. You can interlace behind the thigh around the shin. Pull the knee gently in towards the chest. Let the low back round, and then let the knee move away or the thigh away from the body, and let that low back kind of start to move up a little bit away from the floor, or as if it's going to. So basically, we're just going to pump in and out a few times with the right femur bone. That's your big thigh bone. And the interesting part isn't the femur, right? The interesting part is what's happening in your low back and your sacrum right now. So notice that. After you've hugged it in the next time, stay hugged in. Pull your navel down to your spine to lift the upper body up. Tuck the chin in. Pull into, I always call it a half fetal ball. And then lower back down. Bring the right foot down. Bring the left leg in, again, interlacing wherever you would like. You're going to go ahead and you're going to let that leg move a little away and a little towards, moving at a pace that is slow enough that you can be mindful of the movement. And again, the interesting part is not the femur moving forward and back. The interesting part is when the femur moves, what's happening in the low back and the sacrum area. And if you're like, gosh, I feel it in my upper back, well, there you go. The next time the knee comes down towards the chest, stay in, hug it in, pull your navel, actively pull the navel down to the spine, to the ground, tuck the chin in and lift up into a half fetal ball. Are your shoulders up at your ears? Is your jaw clenched? They don't have to work here, right? Go ahead and lower the body down, lower the left leg down, and pause for just one breath and just notice. Bringing the right leg in, I forgot to warn you to have a strap on standby, so grab your strap. If you need to hit pause and go grab it. And take that strap around your right foot and push the right heel up into the sky. So now we're working on the back of the leg. I don't know about all y'all, but when I travel, my hamstrings get pretty tight and it feels like it's causing chaos in my low back often when it does that, right? So I'm gonna Straighten my leg as much as I can. It does not have to be straight at all. But I want you to imagine you have your hands around your thighs like we often do, and push your thigh forward into the imaginary hands, or I could just say just push it forward, right? And hopefully the low back lengthens. So keep that traction in the low back. Lengthen the left leg out, and it's on the ground. You're not bearing weight. Pushing the heels in their respective directions. Soft shoulders, soft jaw, soft neck. Take a breath into the back of that right leg. Both straps, right hand, left arm, teed out. Inhale. Exhale. We're just going to go over and hold it for about 2 breaths. So go ahead and reach that right leg over to the right. A straighter arm is helpful for helping support the weight. Work the left thigh down. The gentler version would be the knee on the ground and the knee moves over to the side, right? But if you're okay hanging here for a couple of breaths, pushing the heels still in their respective directions, they're just different directions, right? Go ahead and bring that leg up. Both straps, left hand, right thumb in the right hip crease, hold it forward and pull it down. Move the right leg over just a few inches. So do not let the right hip come up off the ground for this one, right? And if you're like, I'm not feeling much, maybe pull your toes back towards the head side of the mat a little bit. And if you're feeling a little bit, but you're just being a sensationalist, you're like, no, I must be in the deepest stretch or I'm not benefiting my body. I totally disagree with you. Maybe take that place where you're feeling the stretch, but your body feels safe enough to release the muscles and the fascia, yeah? And we're moving it into a twist. You're gonna tee your right arm out. Now let the right hip lift, twisting, rolling onto your left side body. I'm going to bring my left elbow down on the ground for a support system. And we're not gonna bring the right heel lower than the right hip today, right? So some of y'all can probably reach the ground with it, but for today's purposes, leave it the height of the hip, and rather turn your head to the right, reach your right fingertips over to the right, and slide the right shoulder back down to or towards the earth. Take a breath there. Bring the right foot up, bring the right hip down, bend the knee to release the strap off the foot, bring the arms by the side, palms down, point the right foot, flex the right foot. Point the right foot, flex the right foot. You're going to keep doing that, and on approximately an 8 count, lower that right leg to the ground, trying to keep your hips stable, your low back from flying up to the sky, your jaw soft, your neck soft, etc. Right? And then we're going to go through that series on the other side. So I'm going to ask that you start with bent knees. I know you can keep the right leg straight and activate it right away. And there are days we work that. But when we bend the knees, we put slack on the muscles, which puts slack on the pelvis, which allows us to find the low back stuff, right? So bring the left knee in, strap the left foot, push that left heel up to the sky. And before we straighten the right leg, right, I want that piece where A, the heel pushes up and you start to feel that activated. B, push your thigh forward, right? If it helps you imagine the hands there, do that. Find the low back first and stabilize the low back and the pelvis, and then extend the right leg out if you want the right leg. You could leave the knee on the ground the whole time. The knee, don't leave the knee on the ground. Leave the foot on the ground the whole time with the knee bent. That would work. And just breathe into whatever you have going in the back of that left leg. And, you know, I always have to remind myself at times like this, it's like, yeah, you just sat for 3 hours in the car there and 3 hours back and all the things, like, yeah, I am tighter. I'm not as, quote, far in or whatever those things are, but it's like, I don't have to be. It's okay. Right? Need to get rid of that heat, that competitive part of me. Bring that left hand around the strap, both straps in the left hand. Let me see that better. Tee the right arm out, releasing the left leg over to the left. You could bring the left elbow down to the ground. You could leave the arm nice and straight, shoulders soft, tongue soft, and both heels are reaching in their respective directions very actively, right? Still pushing that left thigh forward into imaginary hands interlaced around it to keep the low back long. Inhaling up, both straps in the right hand. Take the left thumb, put it in the hip crease, hold it down and push the thigh forward, and then move the left leg over to the right. And rather than going super far over to the right, if you're like 10 inches down, A, make sure your hip is steady and on the ground. B, you might come up a little bit and, you know, play with it. See if maybe the toes moving that way gets you more, whatever it is. I'm a fairly flexible girl and I'm only about 4 inches over and I'm feeling plenty. And my body feels the stretch, but feels safe enough to not have to contract everything around it to try to, you know, keep it safe. Tee the left arm out, roll onto the right side body. Again, please don't let the left heel go lower than the left hip. Feel free to put the elbow on the ground and then keep that left hip steady. Look to the left. Reach the left fingertips actively away for a moment and then try to slide your left shoulder back and down. I could say roll from your kidneys, right? Or your front abdomen all the way back to the left. Breathe. Bring the legs up. Bend the knee to release the strap, put it off to the side, palms down, arms by side, palms down, and then point and flex and point and flex. And again, as you lower that down, bring your awareness into your pelvis and your low back and try to stabilize that whole region as you move through that. And then once you're there, you can either lay with the legs extended. If it feels better to have the feet on the ground with the knees bent, that would work too. Breathing wherever you're at. And noticing. Hunter is yelling at me. If you don't know my cat yet, you'll probably see her in a moment. But she's down in the alley and now she's yelling at me. She had 3 days without a human. It was terrible. Well, that's not true. Someone came by to watch her, but she's very lonely, evidently. Okay, so now walk your feet into hip distance. Let's say hi to the upper body. So with the feet hip distance, you remember when we did all of that chakra stuff, right? And if not, you know, it's that one where we push into the block between the thighs to find the pelvic floor. We just find that little toning beneath our navel, above our navel, and keep that. And then go ahead and push into the heels to lift the hips. Grab your mat for the first one. We're going to do it twice. I'll give you that interlace in a second if you want it. Rock to the left and tuck your right shoulder and then vice versa, right? Try to get to the tippity tops of your shoulders or at least closer to them. Keep pushing actively into that imaginary block between your thighs. Keep toning beneath your navel and above your navel, just slightly down. And then let the opening happen in the upper back, right? Pull your mat apart, push your mat forward, and hopefully it feels like the chest just blossomed. Take another breath. And exhale, roll down. You can pause for just a moment, a breath, maybe two, before we do that second bridge pose. So this is upper back, right? But we want to stabilize as much of the rest of the spine as we can, so we isolate it more in the upper back. The whole spine doesn't have to go into extension here. Okay, feet hip distance, move into the imaginary block, find your toning of your second and third chakra, and then go ahead and lift up. You can either grab the edges of the mat or you can do that interlace. Rock to one side to tuck the other shoulder under you and vice versa. And then my people who are grabbing onto mats, pull the mat apart and push it forward. My people who are interlacing, push down through the pinky finger, the wrist, everything you can, right? But also imagine you had that strap around your wrists, push out into the strap. Take a breath, everybody. And exhale, roll down. And pause for a moment and just notice what you notice in your body thus far. We're going to come up, grab the backs of the thighs and rock yourself up. If it's available to sit cross-legged, that's where we're headed next. If not, you could do thread the needle from your back. That's this one where you put the ankle on, or from seated for that matter, right? That's a safer way for most knees into this region if this isn't accessible. You could sit on height, but right shin is in front, and I'm going to get really, really long. And then from there, go ahead and fold a little forward or a lot. I don't know what all y'all, but I'm starting to feel all of that stuff on the upper back of my thighs, my outer hips light up, even down into my lower back. I personally really like to coax the muscles into length by just rocking a little bit right to left. As always, all of this is optional. None of it is necessary, right? And then come halfway up from wherever you are and lengthen. Bring the hands forward and down a little bit again. Don't go to your full depth yet. Walk over to the left and reach that right arm forward and away. And then go ahead and now fold the rest of the way in. Right. And then come up. We're going to go both directions. So again, come up a little bit to move over to the right, reaching the left arm forward and away, and then lengthen the spine and then bring that fold down and in and breathe. Come through center. Come on up, put your other shin in front, get nice and tall. And again, if it's appropriate and feels okay, go ahead and start to fold forward a little, a lot, whatever feels right. Keep the buttocks bones grounded as you maybe rock a little bit from right to left. And then maybe come up just a little bit, lengthen the spine, walk over to the right first, stretching the left arm forward and away, and then go ahead and fold in a little deeper if it's there for you, right? Really anchor the left buttocks for opposition. And coming up, walking over towards the left, reaching that right arm forward and away. Keep that right buttocks anchored as you fold in any additional amount. Breathe. Inhale, come to center, come all the way up. Extend those legs out in front of you. And we're going to go ahead and have them about the distance of the short edge of your mat. Depending on where you're sitting, you might already be there, right? And I'm going to bring my hands back behind me and lean back a little bit. Now be cautious of just kind of caving in, keep a little length in the spine. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to move through windshield wiper. Now, just let it be a gentle rock in the first part, right? Rocking back and forth. If it feels too intense to have what we call 90-90, you could do shin box, right? Sometimes it feels gentler if the feet are closer in the body. And then the next time you're over to the right, and scoot your butt back if you need to, by the way, you might stay over there, right? And again, I'm going to let that left knee come down. It doesn't have to come to the ground. That's not what I'm implying. But as I let that left hip, actually work from the hip, not the knee, as I let that hip move kind of forward and a little over on an angle, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to maybe bend my right elbow over towards the right side, my left elbow over towards the right side, and turn and look back. And then come up. When we go over to the other side, again, you can think about the right knee moving down, but I want to be wiser than that in my teaching. Let that right hip move forward on the diagonal, and then maybe bend that right elbow kind of over to the right and twist in just a little bit. Bring everything up, slightly different variation. As my knees go over to the left, I'm going to bring my over to the right. I'm going to bring my left hand back, right? And then from there, I'm going to pull my palms a little bit back towards my thighs and try to lengthen my spine. Let the left hip soften back down to the ground. And hopefully maybe I get a little length through that left low back, or maybe the back of the hip area, something like that. Come all the way back through center. Let the knees move over to the left. Bring the right hand back. And again, I'm just going to really gently pull my hands, traction them towards the thighs to lengthen the spine, and let that right hip soften back towards the earth. Breathe. And bring those arms back around, bring the knees back up, and go ahead and find yourself a comfortable upright posture for just a moment. And we're going to do one more little exercise and then we'll close out. So I'm choosing to kneel because you know me and my hip issues. If you don't, I just like to remind people that if sitting cross-legged is not comfortable for you, sit some other way. You're not going to become a Buddha and become more enlightened because you're sitting cross-legged, right? You're going to become Buddha because you're really wise and you treat your body well. Bring those arms up, and then you're just going to do what a teacher I love calls apple picking. Right? So you're just going to kind of reach up like you're picking apples. You can keep your head straight forward, and that would be a gentler version. And I'm not going to look straight up, but I might look over in the general direction and a little bit up if I want to play with my neck, if my neck says that's okay. And then the next time that you bring your right arm up, bring your left hand down and bring it into the full stretch, right? Lateral stretch. Soften the shoulders away from the ears, maybe turn and look up, and then turn the ribs and look down, right? So the head and the ribs just a little bit, and then turn and look up one more time. Hopefully this is familiar. We do this a decent amount. And rotating down and up, coming all the way up. Reach up first to pick your apple, right? Get the length and then bring it into the lateral stretch. Right hand comes down, of course. And I'm going to maybe turn and look up and roll my ribs open. And then I'm going to turn and look down and roll my ribs down and do that again. And then come on up to center. Bring your hands together in the front of your heart. Close the eyes. Inhale. Bow the chin in. And if you feel like you want some more, you know, there are a whole bunch of other videos you can do, but hopefully that just kind of started to get you back into the body if you've been doing a lot of traveling or sitting in the car or whatever that might be for you, gardening. Right? Namaste, friends. As always, thank you for joining me on the journey, and may all beings everywhere be well.